The Witcher is arguably one of the best shows to be made by Netflix in forever. With the third season right around the corner, there's some interesting news about it. Apparently, there's a major character coming back from the first season. Here's more about just who Crutch and Crate is. While he isn't the newest character to come on the show, it's still just as exciting to find out more about him.
Shite. You never faced so much as a bad meal in your life. Never mind a manticore.
Especially since he only showed up for one episode in the first season, in between the betrothal feast of Princess Pavita. The very same episode showed that Dunny was bound to the princess because of a weird law.
Dooney. I told you to stay away.
I'm talking about the Law of Surprise, of course. Later on, though, Geralt ended up binding himself to their daughter, Ciri, purely by accident. It was one of the best episodes of the entire show. Back then, the character was played by none other than Blair Kincaid. But this time around, if reports by Redenian intelligence are true, the character will play a much larger role in the third season. Not just that, but he's also going to be played by Johannes Hajokur Johannesson, famously known for his work in Vikings Valhalla. While that's all you may know about the character as of now, there's a lot of lore that covers more about him. In the show, he was one of the people that Pavetta could potentially end up marrying. That is until they were abruptly interrupted by Dunny himself, and things took a really intense turn. But the character is much more than just that. He first appeared in one of the books on which the entire show is based, called The Last Wish, and is a much more interesting character than you might think. In fact, he's known as the Wild Boar of the Sea and even a Sea Boar. And not just that, but he's mentored by the very same person that later on marries Queen Calanthe, Aist Tirsic.
Oh, surprise has been called. You kill them?
Kill me.
Though he is his uncle, so there's a bit of nepotism going on there. But that's far from the end of it. His other uncle is the King of Skellige himself, King Bran Tirsic. Though the parts of the show are correct, that entire thing with him contending for the princess's hand really does happen. But after getting rejected, the character ultimately becomes the Jarl of Skellige. How does that happen? King Bran gave the throne to his brother, and he gave the title of Jarl to Crutch. Not just that, but there's this whole arc where he and Yennefer end up getting together for a bit.
What's got into her?
She's your daughter, is she not?
Now I know why she said she'd sail to speak her of. Ah, children. The older they grow, the more trouble they are.
In fact, even long after they had broken up, he never quite got over her and always was fond of her until he died. But here's where things get really interesting, and how the show could tie him up smoother than the butter on your toast. Since Aist was married to Calanthe,
It would have been your blade at Phil of Entwald's throat had you been there, your majesty. Not that any elven bastard would crawl from the lair to meet you on the field.
Ciri would spend a lot of time visiting Skellige, so the trio could just call upon him for the third season. But even so, what exactly could his role be? Ciri is the reason that the character simply refused to sign any kind of peace treaty with Nilfgaard and would rather have a war. In fact, after her parents died, the Jarl made a blood oath on the Order of Calanthe to protect Ciri no matter what, so he's always down to guard her or help her out when he's called on. It turns out that his own unit fought against them to defend Sintra in the First Northern War, that too at the Battle of Sodden. Then, in the Second Northern War, while Ciri was missing, well, had actually been kidnapped, he met again with Yennefer and things really started to shake up.
My, you've grown beautiful.
The two were able to find a portal that took her all the way to Skellige and then to Nilfgaard. Because of his help, she and Geralt were even able to find her and save her, though she was arrested and tortured for a while before they got there.
You'll be hard-pressed to defeat the Imperial fleet.
We will conquer or perish. Hjalmar and Ceres showed us how to die like heroes.
Can't say how sorry I am about your loss, Jarl.
They died a good death.
So he's pretty loyal to not just his promise, but to his older lover too. And that's where he could come in the upcoming season. The show better stick to the source material this time. It's already taken too many creative liberties just to keep it entertaining. Though the whole story not following a chronological order was just confusing. Season 3 is expected to start setting things up for the fourth one, which is going to be featuring the Second Northern War. So everything that leads up to that point is super important. With that said, what else can you expect from the third season? season. If the book's timeline is going to be followed, then they're probably going to be getting ready for the Thaned coup in the upcoming season. But before all of that, they need to set up a character that's super important to all of it. Of course, I'm talking about Crutch.
A few words, and he'll have you thrown in the bear pit. After which, you'll promptly kill him, and my troubles will be over. That is why I laugh.
And properly introduce him this time. The show still has a lot of stories that it needs to cover. And not just that, but there are a lot of details that it has already kind of messed up. And Season 3 is going to need to urgently fix them, at least if they want things to make any kind of sense later on. But you can for sure expect Geralt to team up with Yennefer and Crutch to take down the big bad.
Skellige is its clans. In times of war, tradition holds the clans unite under the leadership of their king. We bid Bran farewell.
The show is already walking down a pretty steep oath, especially since Henry Cavill has left the show and Liam Hemsworth is taking over. Cavill, in fact, claimed that he left because they were straying too far from the source material. If that's a good or bad thing is yet to be seen. On the other hand, the show is probably going to continue the story from the second season and completely ignore the prequel spin-off. I mean, they obviously should, and no one should ever mention that show again.
Were those the rays of Morg?
The Wild Hunt. Yes. We're safe now, thanks to you.
And if they do try to bring it in somehow, they should be ready for that rating drop. Speaking of the trio, what is Yennefer's deal this time? Everything again points towards her and Geralt having to work alongside Crutch if they want to stay safe and actually survive.
Find your weakness. The gaping wound in your heart. The thing that makes you feel hopeless, and she plunges her finger into it. It makes it hurt so badly you do anything.
But Season 2 was a roller coaster for this character. First, she loses all of her powers and is completely helpless and hates herself. Then, she ends up making a deadly deal with none other than Volethmir just to get them back. That's obviously going to bite them in the back. Not just that, but that very decision put both Ciri and Geralt in the face of even more danger, with half the continent searching for the princess. Something that gets even more intense as Mir joins the Wild Hunt. Yennefer is going to play a major role while fixing her own mistakes this time. And finally, when is the next season even coming out? Everyone is super excited about it. I know I am. While there isn't a specific date for the show yet, there are some assumptions that you can make about it, considering that filming for the show ended back in September of 2022. There's a lot of hope that it could come out sometime in the middle of 2023, probably sometime in the summer. Fans have been waiting for it for over 2 whole years by this point, and hopefully there won't be any delays. And not just that, but I really hope that they don't go too far from the source material. Everyone knows how that would turn out, and that's all you need to know about The Witcher Season 3 and its new powerful ally. We'll see you in the next video.